Buenos días y muchas gracias. Primero quería agradecer mucho al País Vasco y a Innobasque de haberme invitado, porque en realidad ya no trabajo en los fondos sociales, trabajo en la DG Comunicación y mi nuevo jefe me ha dejado ir porque pues hemos podido convencerle que esta era una ocasión única e interesante para presentar esta guía sobre un tema, pues, a burning issue en la sociedad europea de hoy. O sea, os voy a hablar de la guía, pero también un poquito más sobre por qué hicimos la guía ahora y por qué es importante hacerlo ahora. Ya hemos tenido la perspectiva que ha dado Áñez y Miquel, pero hay poquitos elementos más que os quería explicar. O sea, voy a explicar un poco por qué, quiénes son estos innovadores sociales, quiénes pueden ser, dónde se puede hacer y cómo, unos ejemplos más y el modelo de 10 pasos. Me gustaría pasar al inglés, si me permitís, porque el castellano no es mi idioma materno y la guía ha sido elaborada en inglés y me temo que haya muchos términos que no sé en español. ¿Por qué la innovación social? Bueno, olvido el inglés ya. Why social innovation now? Why is social innovation fashionable now? And why is it not as unattractive as it might have been? Of course, there is the crisis, the economic crisis, and a lot of people in Europe suffer from this crisis, suffer in their daily lives, and much more than before. And I think there is also less of that it's your own fault. A lot of people realize now that there is victims of this crisis that are hardworking people that really have difficulties to survive, to feed their children, that have no way to find a job, etc. So there is the crisis and the effects of the crisis, but not only that. There is also, and it was also mentioned by the other people, demography, the affordability of our social systems. And linked to that, the role of the state is put in question, and in many countries in different ways, because the role of the state is not totally the same everywhere. And an important thing is really this affordability of the social and the healthcare systems, but also the fact that this one-for-all approach, that everybody receive the same service, is not possible anymore, and that much more we have to evolve to a tailor-made service, which is at the same time better for the client, for the customer, but also allows cost saving and unnecessary spending. It also has to do with modernization of the state, of public service, of ministries, of social services, etc., from within. The hierarchies, the way the services work, etc., is being renovated and changed in many ways, not just for cost cutting, but also to allow for better service and more contemporary functioning of the services. But then, of course, the social has to do with the social media era. And there is really a vast impact of these social media on the daily lives of European citizens, but also of global citizens. And it is not just Facebook and how you can communicate with your friends, but also how quickly people can get in touch with each other and take action. Citizens get together and do something, protest, mobilize, and this has an impact on also how public service is working and is expected to work, and also in tackling social issues and how people get organized. I mean, just look at all the apps that are being developed by millions of people. I heard recently that Amsterdam, for example, is now called Appsterdam, because they are specializing in developing apps and want to become the world leader in apps. And apps are not just done by specialists in closed laboratories. They're really done by the users as well. You also have, for example, bulk buying, citizens pulling together to do bulk buying and to get cheaper prices. I did it myself last week. I'm a member of a parents' association, and they offered, and there's an excellent wiki parent, where you can subscribe, and then you get your fuel at a cheaper price. So there is this whole service economy that is being built by interaction of clients and users and providers that is changing also the way we can tackle social issues. Why social innovation now is popular has to do with trends in society, as one of the experts that wrote our guide has so beautifully displayed here. So I already mentioned demography, not just aging, but also the migration issue in Europe. There are environmental trends, water, climate change, green energy, etc., that are changing markets and are also opening possibilities for social innovation. Community trends that change through diversity and IT solutions, the digital society, as I already mentioned with the social media era. Poverty, social exclusion, and child poverty issues that have also changed, that are not the same than a generation ago. Trends in health and well-being, Mikkel cited the example of the fitness centers, but a lot of these issues and markets have drastically changed through IT solutions, e-health, new devices, etc. And there is also the trend of ethical goods and services. I mean, people care more about where the things come from. I think also that, for example, the fact that now you have fair trade products in normal supermarkets has made a change. They used to be available only in small third world shops with volunteers, but now people do buy fair trade coffee, fair trade bananas, etc. So these social innovations are typically driven by a social mission, and the value they create is necessarily a shared value, economic and social value. And they tend to overcome the last mile problem, this issue that has not been solved by the market, has not found a solution by traditional public service, etc., and their social innovation can come in, and they identify like cracks in the system. And what do you need for solving these last mile problems and cracks in the system? A lot of very creative people, of course. Who can be social innovators? They can come from all walks of life. It is not just that they are just social entrepreneurs. They are not just people from NGOs or associations. I mean, they can come from the cooperative sector, from the social economy, from within government and public services. Policymakers can be social innovators themselves. They can come from the IT sector. They can be user groups. There's a lot of user-led innovation that can be qualified as social innovation. There are consultancies that start specializing in social innovation. You start having courses in social innovation in business schools, in MBAs, etc. So they can come from all walks of life. Where does this social innovation happen? Well, it can also happen everywhere. I mean, in Europe, but also globally, there's a lot of initiatives coming from like Pakistan and India and Africa. A lot have to do with problems you can solve through new and quick and easy IT solutions. but they don't happen the same anywhere and everywhere. And local and cultural differences play a big role. And of course, there we can link back to the smart specialization strategies that also have to adapt really to the local and the regional context and really contextualize, first of all, which issues you tackle, but also in what way. And here I want to mention a few issues that finally did not make it to the guide because the guide was already big enough. But I think it is interesting to mention the cultural and linguistic differences that exist with social innovation. Because social doesn't mean the same in every language. And we have this social innovation community in English that is, it's rather broad, the meaning of social. And it goes much beyond just the meaning of social as in social service. Or social issues and social problems and disadvantaged people. Social also means interaction between people and just what has to do with society. And this has really influenced on the meaning of social innovation. And I think the Anglo-Saxon world, 5 minutes, has had an influence on what is meant by social, but the local context, you need to build on the tissue that is there. So in some countries, it might be the cooperatives that exist, a strong cooperative sector. In others, that might be e-health and IT. And for example, if you look at Finland, they have a lot of e-health solutions. Well, let's not be surprised because a lot of people live in isolated areas. So I think that if you define your regional strategy, it's very important to detect which kind of problems you need to tackle, which kind of issues, but also which are your strengths also, in the business sector, in the social sector, what kind of groups you can interact with. So as the time is limited, I'm not going to go into these examples of living labs, community-supported agriculture, urban regeneration, incubation, microcredit, etc. You have examples on all of this in the guide. The 10 steps to lead to social innovation. I won't explain all the steps in detail. It's a model that has 10 steps, but you don't necessarily have to follow each step like on a staircase. In some contexts, you might already be at step 5, for example, or you might just want to focus on step 7 and do incubation trajectories for social enterprises. But I'm just going to give you a flavor of the most important steps that are 1, 4, 6, 7, and 8. And steps 9 and 10 are for the really advanced and for those that really want to make it like their unique selling proposition for the region. But there are really possibilities to develop it on a larger scale. Put the pieces of the puzzle together as a start, because the knowledge about social innovation, both in public service and in the public at large, might be very different. But it's not just gathering the bits and pieces and see what exists. You also need what our expert called a ringmaster, and they took it from boxing. But you need somebody who has decision power and power to really mobilize the people that have decision power. Because otherwise you remain in some kind of stakeholder consultation without being able to really push things forward. And then you can provide crash courses for the civil servants so that they understand the market of social innovation better, get ideas from the citizens, etc. And you have here the example from Flanders with their idea jams, but they have moved a lot forward since, and they really have a social innovation strategy. And as it already has been mentioned by several speakers before, is integrated into a smart specialization strategy and action plan. This is, of course, if you want to do it with regional development fund money. If you have social fund money, the possibilities are broader than with the regional development fund. Do you want to make it a priority? Describe clearly what is the priority and where do you want to go. I'm not going to go into details of smart specialization because Mikel already explained it, and John will also. But define your priorities, allocate a budget, and then start acting. The Transition Innovation Platform is where you put really together the people that matter. So you just don't have the decision-making people, but you make sure that you have the people, the right stakeholders on board. You develop a vision, and then you really start experimenting, and you keep up the network. And it's not just a formal thing and not just something on paper. You need to formalize this platform and have really the people acting together. And an incubation trajectory is really where you have a step approach with a process that is well defined and with professional coaches and people that do the incubation. You can do it for the social entrepreneurs and have this business trajectory where maybe you're not able to read the small characters at the bottom, define the business concept, validate the opportunity, design the service, etc., leading to a startup. But you can also do it within public service. And there are some examples in the guide where, for example, the Danish authority has set up an incubation trajectory of service provision by the public service. Inside, modernizing it, changing it completely, making it much more user-centered than they used to be before. And then the idea of a social innovation cluster or park, and of course we have a very nice example here in the Basque country with Denokin. But there again, the power of putting the people together and being able to co-create and have the business executives, the potential investors, the public services, the authorities, and the entrepreneurs together to start their new things. And if you put them together in a park or in a cluster, they can take advantage of the services and of, for example, expensive equipment together, etc. And through the Regional Development Fund, you can use old industrial areas and make them into creative buildings, etc. So, to conclude, I mean, first of all, the rising importance of social innovation is already demonstrated by the interest of the people that are in this room. And it's not just for tackling social issues in a traditional way, but really also to improve competitiveness. And regions are well placed to play a leading role in the promotion of social innovation. And they're very close to the local tissue, the local businesses, the local people, and the issues that need to be tackled. For the 5 reasons, you have the guide. It can be an orchestrated and organized process, and there is a role for the regional authorities to be a ringmaster and to organize this process. The fast-changing environment makes it important to find a new way to develop a government's experimentalism and to come up with fresh ideas to overcome societal and social challenges. And then you have the 10-step model of the guide to help you design that process. And now, I hope this is going to work. I just wanted to finish with a personal note and show you how social innovation in the Basque Country has affected my personal life. But it's a video, but it doesn't want to. It worked on my computer, but it's not working. Yeah. No. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It was only 10 seconds. It's a video of my son, who is 7 years old, on his Basque bike. And we just bought it for its 7th birthday. And if it wouldn't have been for the involvement in social innovation, I think I would have not learned about Mondragon. And I think I wouldn't have paid that much notice to a documentary I saw on the Flemish TV on the making of the bikes in the Basque countries. So when we bought the bike, I thought, this is the bike I want to buy. And it's an innovation because it's a bike that grows with age. So the growing Basque bike is something that stays with me as social innovation from the Basque country. And then, to finish, I would just like to thank everybody that has worked on this guide, because, okay, I have coordinated the guide, but there were, first of all, the people within the Commission, like Agnes and Mikel, but people from many other DGs. We had a really well-functioning network in the Commission of engaged people that have all commented on the guide and have vastly improved its quality. Then, of course, the experts that have written it with us, iPropeller and Peter Ramsden, they have really done a great job. And then all the people from the projects, because they have sent us examples, kept things like, come and see this, and sent us new text, and it's really their concrete examples that have improved the guide. And people like Gotson and Gorka that keep telling me, and here is this, and do you come and see this, and it was really great to work with all these people and have this guide. And of course the colleagues from the Social Fund, and we're very glad we have a common product for the ESF and ERDF on social innovation. Thank you very much.